Alright, so we'll start off with perspective with CGD 180. Yesterday you had the violin to try to draw. Was there any questions on that, by the way? Anyone having trouble with the pen tool, drawing the violin? Um, Anyways, I don't think you're gonna need to use the pen much in this next assignment, but future assignments, Illustrator 2, you're gonna need to know how to use it good. Um, Alright, so perspective drawings. We could look at examples of perspective on Google to get some ideas what type of drawings to make. I shouldn't type perspective drawing. Just type perspective image or view road. Something simple we'll probably start off with, like a single point perspective like this one first. Just like a road. See if we can make it more interesting. This one. So, can anyone notice the difference between like this sort of perspective and this one? Here we have one vanishing point, right? There's just one point that everything, sort of every line goes to. In this one, you can see that there's 2 points. There's one going that way, there's one off the screen going that way. Right, so there's different types of perspective we could have. There's also 3-point perspective. Maybe not a road, but maybe like a building like this one. You've got, like, if you're above the buildings, you might have perspective going all the way down, one that way, one that way. Here's another 3-point perspective. I don't know why they're all drawings, but let's see if there's actual photo with 3-point perspective. I guess that's a photo. Anyways, we could set up with the perspective grid tool. Currently it's on 2-point perspective. I think that's what it is by default. But you can modify it. You can go to... So first of all, it comes up whenever you click on the perspective grid tool. It just pops up. And you might be annoyed if you first bring it up, you don't know how to get rid of it. You try closing this, nothing happens. You have to be on the perspective grid tool to be able to click this X to get rid of it. Or you have to be on the perspective selection tool. Also, you can press Control, not I, Control Shift I, or Command Shift I to bring it up and make it go away. Once you have the perspective grid, you'll be able to click this little widget here. It's got left grid, right grid, horizontal grid. So that's for like the 3 faces. So you could put something on this side, you could attach it to this face, or you could attach it to this face, or you could attach it to the ground. If you want to try all 3 of them real quick, just bring up the perspective grid tool by clicking on it and simply grab like the rectangle tool and start drawing, and you'll notice that it's gonna be in that perspective. It'll be in one of the perspective, one of the faces. Even if I try to draw it here, you'll see it's still in that perspective. No matter where I draw it, you get some cool looking effects like this. Control Shift I to hide the grid. I'll bring it up again. So if you wanted to switch to another face, you just have to click on one of the other faces. So now it's going to be drawing on this side. If I want to switch back to the other side, I'll just click the other side. If I want to click to the ground, I just click the bottom one there, and now I could draw the ground. So try that out for a second. Right, and you'll also notice when you bring up the perspective grid tool, there's a bunch of little points that you can click on, and this way you could mess with the perspective grid. Like this just brings the grid higher if you need to. This one will change basically the eye level, so pretty much where you would be standing if you were looking at this. Um, it's changing the horizon. So if you're standing higher, the horizon would be up here. If you're standing lower, it would be down here. So this is like on the ground, and this is a little bit above the ground. You can also um, rotate it a little bit like this by dragging this to the right side. So these are the two perspective vanishing points. There's that one and that one. So you could move them. You can also move the whole thing by grabbing either this bottom left point or this bottom left point or this bottom right point. There's some others like this one will separate the walls. This would be useful if you wanted like a flat face um, on the building. I don't know, I just automatically picture this as a building. What else? I think that's pretty much it. That's all the controls that you need to know. Now how do we reset it? Let's say we messed it up. You can go to object, perspective. Actually, it wasn't there. I think it was under view. View perspective grid. You could do define grid, and then you could set custom options, or you could set it to 2-point normal view. This is the default. Is what it was on before we messed it with it. So it's under view, perspective grid, define grid, or you could just choose like 1-point normal if you want to switch to single point perspective. This is if you wanted to do a drawing like the examples that we saw. The first example with the 1-point perspective, like a road, that would be this one with 1 point. And if I go to view, perspective grid, 3-point perspective, we haven't seen this one yet. This is the, like, if you were in the air above the building and you had the 1 point there, 1 point here, and 1 point down here. And who joined us? Either Andrea or Katrina. It was Katrina. Okay, so still missing one person. Sign in is red. And I'm just going over the perspective grid tool. So once again, to summarize, you bring up the perspective grid by clicking the perspective grid tool. You can switch between single point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective by going to view, perspective grid, and then choosing either 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective, or clicking define grid. This way you could sort of set custom inputs for it. But you could also choose the default 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point from here, and you could modify it from here. I think I'll stick with, we'll start with the 1-point, I think. 1-point, just because I think it'll be easier. So perspective grid 1-point, 1-point normal. And again, if you want to draw on the perspective grid, since we only have one vanishing point here, we pretty much only have the left grid and a horizontal grid. So if I click on one of these widget buttons, I could draw, let's say, on that face, or I can draw on this face. I don't think, yeah, if you click the third one there, it's just going to be normal because in a single point perspective, or a single vanishing point, we don't have like a third plane. And again, to get rid of the perspective grid, just click on the perspective grid tool and then click that little X, or press Ctrl Shift I. Although I think if you press Ctrl Shift I to hide it, you might still be drawing in perspective if, let's say, the left face is selected and I press Ctrl Shift I and I start drawing. Actually, no. If you hide it, then you're not really drawing in perspective anymore. So right now, if I draw it, it is gonna be in the perspective, but if I press Ctrl Shift I and hide it, it's just normal drawing. So let's do a simple scene of like a road. So I'll again bring up this perspective grid in case I don't like the perspective vanishing point. Maybe I could move it down a little bit. We can drag this a little bit to the left, maybe, if we're like more on the right side of the road. You just put it on the normal one. Alright, so let's start drawing. So I want to draw a road here. What you could do is just draw it normally first. So just because if we draw straight like this on the grid, it's kind of difficult to figure out what you're doing. Let's say this is like the road itself. It's this black here, and maybe some stripes on the road. Pick a yellow color. Oops. Pick yellow for a new shape and start drawing it like this. It's kind of hard to figure out how long should you be drawing each of these stripes, right? So it's better if you first draw it flat and then move it to the perspective grid. So you could either hide the perspective grid or just click on one of the other plane, or the third plane here in this case, or the right side plane, since that one it draws in normal view, it's just flat. You could start drawing your road. Maybe this is my road, and I'll start drawing some stripes on it. Just draw two of them and Control D. Right. So then you could select that whole thing and then grab the perspective selection tool. Click on the bottom of the widget, and you should be able to select this and drag it onto the perspective grid just like this. And maybe I should scale it a little bit. And maybe repeat these, so I could hold the Alt button and duplicate it so it's further down the road. We still have stripes. And let's just line that up a little better. That's how you can do the road. And for the trees, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult because you could draw a tree in normal perspective like this. Let's say I'm just gonna do a simple one like that. We could select that, maybe group it together, and then we could select with the perspective grid tool or the perspective selection tool, click the left face. We could move this to the left face, put it on this side or this side. But as you can see, it's gonna look kind of weird because I don't know, it looks flat. So in that case, I would just put like a guide for how tall you want the tree to be. So you could use the tree itself as the guide, I guess. Go back to perspective, Control Shift I to bring it back. So you could set this as a guide to figure out how tall to make the trees as they go down the road. So that kind of helps you figure out how tall to make it. Or you could just do a line, I guess. You don't, that kind of is a little bit unnecessary. You could just draw a line, and the line doesn't even need to use the perspective grid. We could hide the perspective grid and just draw a line from anywhere to the vanishing point, which would be about there. Right, so you could make all your trees maybe that high, and then if they're like that far from the road, let me make this black so we could see it. You could use this as a guide, so then you could draw your tree again. Oops, wrong color. And then you could again use that as a guide, so you know that okay, the closest tree is gonna be here. The next tree will be about that size. Next one this size, and so on. And you could delete the guide and then flip it over to the other side with the reflect tool. And draw your grass. And at this point, I don't really need the perspective grid too much. I could just draw that. Let's fill it with a color. This would actually just be covering the whole thing, so we could just do that. Alright, and then whatever else in the distance, maybe some mountains. Ah. Send those to the back, put some on this side. Anyways, you get the idea. We could do something simple for now, just to get the point across, and try something fancier later. So that's single point, vanishing point. Let me give you guys a couple minutes to try it out and ask me any questions if you have any. Okay, so to make this a little bit more interesting, we could do another version where the road is not just straight, but curved. So in order to do that, so we do need to use the pen a little bit here. Gonna draw a curve, just like an S, just with 3 points. Make sure there's only 3 points on this, because you don't need more than three to draw an S. Make that black. And just get that curve looking nice. And then make sure that the bottom handle, this one points straight up. That way the road is coming straight towards us and it's not like going sideways. And then also over here, the end point, make that point down. So it's kind of like this. It's an S, but let's also make sure that this point and this point are lined up by lining them up like this with the horizontal align center. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I think this will work. But make that line thicker by increasing the stroke width. I don't think we need to increase it too much. I'm gonna go with 100. Right. Also copy and paste that same stroke onto itself to change the color to white or yellow or whatever the color of the stripes on the road are gonna be, and then decrease the thickness of that. Might want to duplicate that actually, and maybe have two of them like this for the two sides of the road. Double solid means you can't cross it. Anyways, if you wanted to make it dashed instead of solid, you could go to the stroke panel and then choose dashed line. But in this case, I don't think it would make sense to make it dashed, so I'll just keep it solid. And then before you move this to perspective, you don't want to move it to perspective now because it's not going to work. If you try it now, let's say we select the perspective grid tool, choose the horizontal grid, and move it onto here. You'll notice it doesn't really work, does it? Because this is a stroke. It doesn't work. But what you need to do is, before you do that, convert this to a shape instead of a stroke. So select all these lines and say object expand, and then expand the stroke. Now it's a shape. As you can see, it takes a fill, not a stroke anymore. Same with these. Okay, and then now you can move it into, again, using the perspective selection tool and the ground plane selected, you could drag this onto the ground and have a curved road instead of a straight road to make the drawing look a little bit more interesting. And you could scale it holding the Alt and the Shift button so it scales from the center. Just make it a little bit longer like this. Make it even bigger. And move it there. It seems like I keep scaling it forever because the end gets really narrow and small. Maybe that's why we should scale it before doing it, before putting it in perspective. But then, let's say we move it out of perspective. Let me select this and bring it out. Actually, it's kind of hard to move it out of perspective. It's not gonna let you like this. I think what you need to do is you could also press keyboard shortcuts. So if you press 1 on the keyboard, it'll select the, was it 1? Or I think it has to be on the number pad maybe. Or it has to be while something is selected. With the select perspective selection tool. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it has to be selected for it to work. You have to have the object selected, you have to have the perspective selection tool selected, and you can press 1, 2, I guess only 1 and 2 work. Oh no, there should be 4, I think, to, how do we get it out? I'm only able to move it to either the left or the right side, it seems. So 1 brings it to the left side perspective, 2 puts it back on the ground, 3 doesn't seem to do anything, 4 and 5 don't do anything either. Actually, 5 moves it up and down, like in a perspective. If you wanted something to be like higher, maybe the road is not on the ground, I don't know, it moves up and down, 5 can be used. Maybe we could use that somehow to like show that the ground is not level all the way, it goes up and down. But yeah, I'm not sure how to bring it back out of perspective. It should be 4. 4 stands for no active grid, but I'm not able to switch to it for some reason. Might be worth looking up real quick, see if Adobe Illustrator remove from perspective grid. Okay, I guess we have to select it and then go to view, perspective. Um, might be under object, perspective, release with perspective. Nope, didn't work. Doesn't want to come out of the perspective. Uh, does not work. Okay, so I'm just gonna assume there's no way to do it Nothing I do works. So once you put it in perspective, I'm not sure how to get it out of there. Um, it's supposed to be under view, perspective, remove, but I don't see that option. Um, Perspective, remove. Oh, this is for a different program, that's why. Okay, well, try not putting anything in perspective if you plan on taking it out, or just make a copy of it before you put it in there. I think that's your safest bet. Before you move this in, just duplicate it. Um, then you could move it into the perspective grid. Oops, I copied it again. Oops, don't want to duplicate it too many times. Just this one. There we go. Right. So again, don't forget to expand the object. If it's still a stroke, it's not gonna look good in perspective. Also, since it does get like narrower or further away as you go, um, we should probably do the curve. Let me delete that. I still have the original here. Uh, let's delete these two lines. Take this one. Since it's gonna be vanishing, it's going further away. Um, let's do like more of the curve towards the near us, so that we could actually see the curve whenever we scale it. And I'm gonna make this really long. So I think we need to do curve more towards the bottom like this. And let's scale this down, like make it thinner, so then we could scale it up more. Right. Just to test it out real quick, let me move this in. Oh, don't forget object expand, and then move it in. There we go. So now it like curves here and then straightens out there. And direct selection doesn't work in perspective. Unfortunately, there's no perspective direct selection tool. It's just perspective selection tool. Can make it wider. I think that's a good, nice road to start with. If you wanna like raise the road, cause I was looking at Midjourney here. Midjourney again is the AI tool. I think we should start using these just to be using the latest technologies available to us. We should definitely use things like Midjourney to help us with the art. I just typed in so Midjourney. You could have I think up to like 15 free prompts, and then it's like $10 a month. But you probably find other free ones. But this one is a Discord bot. So if you have Discord, you bring the Midjourney bot into it. Um, it explains how to do it on the website, but / imagine, and then you type in a prompt. Like for this, I typed in, as you can see here, down the road perspective with scenic views of trees and mountains. And this is what it came up with. Well, it came up with this, and then I chose which one I wanted to upgrade or make bigger. So I chose the first one and the third one here. So it made that first one a little bit bigger, and then this one. I don't know why I put random text on it, because again, it's AI. It searches the internet for like other drawings, and then sort of puts them together, creates a new image out of it. So it probably found some sort of ad with mountains and trees, and then it probably had some text in the front of it. So that's why there's this random text here. Um, but let's take this one. Copy the image, paste it here, just for inspiration, what we want to draw. And this one you could see it, the road kind of dips and then goes up. That it's gonna be a little bit hard to figure out here. If we did like, remember if you press the number 5 while you're using the perspective tool, if I hold 5, it brings it up and down. This could, I don't know if this would be useful. We could maybe like raise it up here. Actually, I would want to lower it. So press 5 and then lower it. So like there's a dip in the road. And then well, that doesn't work, does it? Yeah. If we were able to grab with the direct selection tool, this probably would be one way to do it, but again, there's no direct selection, so I can't like raise one part of the road and lower another part. Um, Maybe I would have to do like a separate piece of the road. Um, let's say I did two separate objects. Maybe cut the road from somewhere, like here. Just just a little like front part here. I'm gonna cut it from there. So this is like a separate piece. um, then let's try this again. Object expand. I'm just experimenting. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but let's say we put that there. We hold the number 5 so we could lower part of the road. Move it back a little bit. Um, it's, I should have done this a little bit further up. But I was thinking hold 5 and raise this part and move it back. And then connect it. I don't know if that would, no, that's, you're just gonna have to fake it, I guess. Perspective grid's not gonna be useful here. So to fake it, just well, we could just grab it with the direct selection and just lower it, and just figure out what we need to do to make this look like it's a dip in the road. Well, that looks weird. It shouldn't get wider here. Let's remove some of these points. And then this one we could just pull it up manually instead of trying to scale it all the way up. Uh, looks kind of weird. Okay, I'll just put those two there and then try to curve this until it looks right. Oh no, no, it looks messed up. Yeah, the whole dip part. At least for something like this, this doesn't curve much, but you could use it as a reference. But then you wouldn't need the perspective grid at that point because you're just using a reference image. But you know, perspective grid tool is just a tool that you can use. So I mean, for this assignment, I'm not gonna force you to use the perspective grid, but the assignment is gonna be to draw something in perspective. Might as well do this if you're trying to do something that the perspective grid just is not good at. And you'll get more practice with the pen tool if you do this. Alright, so I just did the main part of the road with just basically drawing this shape, tracing the actual road. For this part, you're gonna want to use a single stroke. Maybe going up like that. And then we could change the stroke width profile, variable width profile to this one, where it starts off thicker and then gets thinner. Um, but that doesn't really follow exactly the thickness of this one, so it would be better maybe just stick to uniform and use the width tool to modify it manually. So you could take the width tool, make this bottom part thicker, and let me lower the opacity of this so I could see through it, and then we can use the width tool to make this part thinner, sort of just manually adjust the thickness of this line. And bring it back to 100. Change the color to yellow. or orange. Make that black. Probably want to add some texture to it just so it's not so flat looking. I mean, there's a bunch of like shadows and stuff on the road, but it's gonna be kind of hard to achieve when you're doing a vector drawing. But the first step would be to make the road not so dark. And it's not pure gray. There's a little bit of blue in this color. Go into the color panel and then switch to HSB. Let's bring up the brightness just so we can see the color and put some blue into this. Alright, bring some blue into it, make it darker again. And take away some color, but or why am I doing that if I could just use eyedropper? Shift click on the color to pick it up. Then there we go. So you can see it has blue in the color. That's what the eyedropper is for. Oops. Let's lock the image. Right, and I think a gradient would be nice to have. Like, I know it's shadow here, that's why it's dark, but I think still as the road goes, it gets brighter because it's going higher up. So you could probably use a gradient. Let's drag in this current blue color that we have into the gradient. Duplicate it, get rid of that other gray color. And then just on this side, we could use the eyedropper to pick up the color from the end of the road. And just pick a darker color from this side. And let's change this to 90 degrees. And adjust it if you need to. That helps make it look less fat. Same with the this yellow here. Since this is a stroke, gradient doesn't work the same. If you choose gradient tool on there, you have to switch between these different styles here. Let me pick the yellow colors though first. Take this one. This one's almost white. Oops. Okay, so when you're applying a gradient to the stroke, you could apply it this way, or this way. This one applies it like from one side to the other like this. This one applies it along the stroke, which is what we want. This one applies within the stroke, which again, I think this one is kind of, yeah, we could choose the rotation here. If you rotate it 90 degrees, it's kind of same as um, a long stroke. But I think a long stroke is probably the correct way to use it. Actually, to test it out more in a way where we could actually understand what it's doing, let's make a thicker, just a straight line so we could apply the different styles. So again, this one is within stroke, this one is a long stroke. Again, they kind of look the same. And then this one is a cross stroke. So definitely we don't want a cross stroke, but one of these two. This one we could change the angle. Better demonstration would be if I actually curved this, or applied to like a circle. I think that would make sense. Okay, so we have a circle. Let me also make that gradient more extreme. Right, so this is within stroke, a long stroke, a cross stroke. There, you can kind of see the difference more clearly now. So a long stroke will go along the stroke. Within stroke, we'll apply it like as if this is a solid object, like maybe it's a solid circle. This is how it's applying it. As you can see, it matches this, right? So basically we want the middle option for this. I'm just gonna align everything to my grid, my artboard, including the background image. I'm gonna unlock everything, scale this all to fit within the artboard. Like so. We need our grass area, which will just be a rectangle like this. Color for this can also be this gradient here. You select that. I'm applying it to the stroke still, so make sure you switch back to fill. Actually, for the stroke, let's get rid of any stroke and then switch to the fill and apply that there. Right. Right. At this point, I'll probably just remove. Actually, I still need this for reference for some of the other stuff in the background, like the mountains. I will lower the opacity on this just so I can see through it. And we need to add some trees. We have tree symbols, but I think the symbols that we have just are too bright and stuff, so I don't think they'll look good here. Go to nature. Yeah, they're similar trees, but just a completely different style than what we might want. Maybe we could start with these and adjust the color, make it match more. So I will break the link so it's not a symbol anymore, and just change the colors, make them a little bit more dull, like go into edit colors, recolor artwork. We could dull this a little bit. Well, this makes it darker. If we click this button, we could remove some color. And if we want to adjust it more towards yellow, we could slide this a little bit this way. and I think that would work better. It's still a group even though it's not a symbol, so should we could ungroup it. Ungroup again. There we go. So we have 3 separate trees. Maybe I'll modify this one. Double click on it to go into isolation mode. Or let me ungroup it actually. And take this part, not this part. I don't want to take the bark, I just want the green part. So ungroup again until that's separated from there. Okay. Select that, deselect the bark. I want to make this look a little bit taller, so I'll just duplicate it like this a couple times just to make it look taller, more like these trees. Maybe I'll take this one, ungroup it, just take this part. Yeah, so we have a different looking tree than the original symbol, but quicker than trying to draw the tree again on your own. Right, and then I'll go to my Pathfinder and let's do a merge to get rid of any unnecessary geometry in there. So, and bring this here, a couple big trees here. Kind of want more contrast in the tree, more dark areas. So I'll go to edit, edit colors again, recolor artwork. And then we're gonna have to select the darker green here that we have and just make it darker. There we go. Okay, that's better. And what else? I think this brighter green would be nicer if it, because it looks like the sun is like on one side, so make the left side darker than the right side by making it a gradient. So I can, since this is a group, I'm gonna double click to enter the group, and then with the magic wand I just want to select the brighter greens and I'm gonna apply gradient to them. Gradient will start with this color, so I'll drag that color by eyedropping and then pulling it into the gradient. Then duplicate it and double click one side, pick the color panel and HSB to darken it. Right, right now it's applying the gradient to like each shape separately, so I'll grab the gradient tool and just drag across the whole thing like this. Actually, we want to go in this way, brighter on this side, darker on that side. I think I'll make it even darker, like that. There we go. I think that looks a little nicer. Make that a little bit brighter. Someone have a question? I'm hearing buzzing noise. Hold on. Okay, it's gone. Alright. Alright, so I think that tree matches better than the original. So let's look at the original to see what we changed. Here's the original. Right, it doesn't fit well at all. And here's what we have created out of that just by modifying it a little bit. And we could duplicate this one. Also, I don't know why the bark turned green. Gonna keep the bark brown. So double click that and I drop some of this brown color. So a couple big ones up front. Maybe reflect them this way just so they look a little bit different. Um, if I reflect it though, I need to select these gradients again and switch them so it's brighter on one side. Maybe at an angle too, so top is brighter than the bottom. That makes more sense. We do the same here. I drop the bright here, and then which way do we need to rotate this way? Yep, and smaller ones back there. We want the smaller ones to be behind the bigger ones, so that's why if you started off with the smaller ones and you duplicated coming this way, it would be better because you know the one that you duplicate is going to be in front of the previous one, so maybe start from the further ones. But since I started with the bigger ones, I'll have to just do arrange send backward. So control left bracket or command left bracket to send it back. And then also think further away they become a little bit brighter and more yellowish maybe. So I could adjust the color again, edit color, recolor artwork, and adjust the color. Let's go with that. Oops. And send it to the back. Um, yeah, it's in the back. Okay. And put some here. Send back. Send back. Send back. Cool. How does that look with this at 100? Yeah, we still definitely need some more like shrubs and stuff, grass, some more detail down here. So I think we have grass as well in our symbols. Oops. Nature. I don't know if we could use this grass though. maybe this grass 4. Just again adjust the colors. So scale it down till it's like about the size of what it needs to be for the detail level that we need. But then don't make it too small, because then you're just gonna have way too much going on. Slow down your computer. So how should we do this? We need like a more simple form of grass. So I might just delete that and just do this one manually. Just try drawing it on our own. Actually, you know what you could do? Instead of doing all these zigzags manually, let's just do like the rough shape of all of this. And then for the that grassy effect, maybe we could apply a effect, distort, transform. We could do a roughen, maybe. We can adjust the size and the detail of the roughness. There's also effect, distort and transform, zigzag, but I don't know. I don't know which one would work better. Zigzag just does straight zigzag. But yeah, it's just too even. We You can't really adjust the evenness, so I'll do with the roughen. So effect, distort, transform, roughen. Right, and then click OK. Um, we can, if you don't want the bottom to be rough, you could either cover it with something that's not rough. Just make it the same color. This is the gradient right now, so it's kind of hard to cover it, but make it solid. Let's take this color. But the other option is, because this is an effect, you can't really edit the bottom part, so you'd have to expand it. Expand appearance. Again, expanding is just making something a solid shape instead of being like an effect or a stroke or a text. It just converts things to regular flat shapes. So you could do that with objects with effects applied to them. You won't be able to adjust the effect anymore, but now you could manipulate the points. And then you could use the lasso tool to just grab all the bottom points like this and just remove them. I think the road was selected, so that's why it wasn't letting me remove. But grab all those, click the minus button here to get rid of those extra points. And you could just smooth this or whatever you want to do with it. Because there's fewer points, it's easier to manipulate this part. Right, and then you could apply gradient to it if you want, and Since it's a solid object, it should work fine. There are shadows and bright areas. You might want to, like here and there, let's lower the opacity so we could see through. Actually, no, let me just flip the fill and the stroke and manually add some little bright areas here and there. So some bright areas, some darker areas. Like where the road is. Actually, that would be better if I cut out a hole from the other one with using this shape. Let me see if I could do that. Let's flip the fill and the stroke. And this is supposed to be a brighter area, so I take some of the brighter color and then use this to cut a hole from this. So I'll just say this is black for now. Take that, this, and use the shape builder to punch this hole. I should have made sure that this shape actually intersects the whole thing. So make sure this goes all the way past that line. And then with the shape builder, punch that out. And we could expand this road a little so it covers that hole. Same with this one. You could roughen it with the roughen tool or just manually have it looking rough when you're drawing it. I'm just gonna, for now, just copy that same color there. Maybe take some of this and just throw it around. Resize it if you need to. Make it fit better. Or just draw some new random stuff. Some darker areas. And for the top part here, you want to zigzag that. I wonder if I could. Nah, what could we do there? Here, I'll do this. Since I didn't make it rough when I first created it, um, I'll just do this. Draw like some rough shape above it. Roughen that. Effect. Distort, transform, roughen. Expand it. And then select both shapes and punch out that one, leaving a rougher shape behind. And then I think just duplicate these. As we go further down, it does get brighter, so as we get further away, let's edit the colors of this thing. Make it a bit more yellow and bright. Right, and maybe get rid of some of these inside points. So I'm just clicking one of these and just clicking the minus button to get rid of some unnecessary points here. Also, when you get further away, you could have less detail in these zigzags. You can say object path simplify and remove some of the points by bringing this down. Well, it doesn't do a great job, but it does remove points. So object path simplify, bring it down more. Right. I just realized I'm going way over break time, so it's 8:11. Let me. Yeah, this became a bigger project than I expected. You don't have to get into this much detail. I just got carried away here, but um, your assignment is going to be to create a perspective drawing. You could use the perspective grid, create something simple, or you could use a reference image. See if you could make use of AI tools to generate them for you, and then use them as a guide. Right, and just rough shapes. I have a little bit too much detail on these, so you don't need that much detail. But just throw in some things on the ground to make it look a little bit more interesting. Repeat shapes. Send the further away stuff to the back. Put that tree behind that. Yeah, you'll end up with something that looks pretty cool. I mean, we still have a long way to go here to finish this one. I need to add some mountains and stuff, but at least the bottom part is looking okay. We could add some little shadows here and there to make the road look a little bit more interesting. Just maybe some spikes of a transparent black color to cover areas. Actually, we could do like a rough one effect. distort, transform, roughen. Not that rough, but a little bit rougher like that. Anyways, okay. So hopefully that gives you some good ideas and you learned something from that. Um, Alright, so after the break, we'll switch to Illustrator 2 and try doing something like this. I think I might do an animal because I've been doing celebrity faces a lot and I like doing like iconic characters that everyone recognizes but I run out of ideas. So I'll probably do an animal next. Okay, break time. Right, so uh, like I said, I kind of want to do an animal because I already did a bunch of celebrities. I think this is my first one and still my favorite. I think the Clint Eastwood one. But the process for this, you could create a black and white drawing. Like let's say we have a photo. Let me unlock everything on this artboard. My reference here. Let's bring it to 100%. You could take a photo such as this one and you can do an image trace and it will give you a result like this one. But you know the way the computer interprets it might not be as nice as what you could come up with, right? This is the computer, but if you do it yourself, you could you can make it a little bit nicer, like this one, right? This is what the computer can interpret from the image, but if you do it yourself, I think this one it's a lot nicer if you do it yourself, right? Because you could recognize the patterns, I think, a little bit better and make up some of these like zigzags. So someone suggested Amy Winehouse. Maybe I'll try that briefly. So first you want to look for a picture that has good amount of contrast, like a high contrast portraits work well for this because there's a lot of shadows to work with. It looks like this is obviously someone used the image trace on this. This is not what we were going for. This is what Illustrator could do automatically for you. So maybe, what's this one? This one's a little bit more hand drawn, but not exactly what we're looking for. Um, so a photo that I think might work well. This one, it's a little too much brightness in this area. It's just too white. There's no detail here. So I don't think that's gonna work well. What was that other one I just saw? This one, maybe. It's a side view. You got some nice shadow here. So this could possibly work. Although you gotta think of this, if it's on a white background, what's gonna be at the tip of her nose here? Like, how are you gonna define the tip of the nose? Because we're only gonna be working with black and white, and no, I don't. I wanna don't add any like outlines. Don't draw a line that's like the shape of this here. You wanna use only shadows and light to draw it. So this would work on a black background. Now, I don't know if it would work so much on a white background because you wouldn't see the tip of the nose here since it's white. This one, this could work maybe. It's just a little too small. You want a nicely detailed, larger image. Um, Girls, I think, are a little bit easier to do because of the all the eyeshadow and um, like the long lashes. I think help draw it a little bit more easily. Let me try Winehouse, just portrait, and see what comes up. This could work. I was hoping I would see like the whole head so we could do the hair too. This one, mm, yeah, it's workable. Just trying to see if there's one that's got more contrast. Anyways, I think I'll just go with this one just because so far best one I found. So let's see what we could do with this. So let me close these. That's Robert Downey Jr. and Charlie Chaplin. Elvis. Okay, so I think I'll do 1,000 by 1,000. Paste this in as my reference. I think I'll make it a little bit bigger. And actually, let's stick with this size. It fits the whole thing. Um, and then, so the first thing you want to do is lock the image. Um, Maybe lower the opacity just a slight bit, just so you can see your black lines a little bit better. I'll lower it to 80%. Also, you could do an image trace, see what that comes out like. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. Photoshop kind of does it a little bit differently. Let me open up Photoshop. But you get similar results. Um, okay, so here's Photoshop. Let's paste the image in Photoshop. Photoshop has filter, or it's actually under image, adjustments, uh, threshold. So what threshold does is it um, looks for the values, like the bright areas and the dark areas, and then you can pick like if you want to see more of the white areas or the dark areas, and kind of gives you this sort of result. You could adjust it a little bit, but still, since it's choosing like pure like bright and dark areas, there's no in between. It's not like trying to determine which parts to keep based on, important features on the face. So it doesn't really do a great job either, right? So again, this is why we're gonna do it manually by hand using the pen tool. Okay, so once you've got your image, you've lowered the opacity a little bit. I don't know if it's necessary to lower the opacity, but I'll just lower it a little bit. Just again, kind of helps see our lines better when we're drawing on top of it. When I do this with a black line, it's a little bit easier to see that black line than if this is at 100%. That's why I'm lowering it slightly to 80%. Also, lock the image or put it on a separate layer and lock that layer, and then work on the top layer. So it's locked, I can't move it anymore. Now I'm going to start laying down the lines. So like I said, you don't want to draw like outlines. Don't do this. This is um, not a good idea. If you're drawing, don't draw these thin black lines like this, because that's not the look we're going for. Right, don't do that. Instead, draw the shadows. So, for example, there's a shadow under the chin. You want to draw that shadow. Like so. It might help if you lower the thickness of your stroke to, say, 0.25, the thinnest we can pick from there. And you can adjust this if you need to. Right, that looks good. I'll reverse the fill and the stroke. We have the shape for the shadow under the chin. Now let's do the hair can be kind of difficult, but what you need to do is look for like these like curves. Let me switch fill and stroke again. But you want to draw like a shadow. Actually, what you should do with the hair is just do the overall shape and add the bright spots afterwards. So I would just do like the hair, maybe like towards like the forehead. You want to do some little bit of zigzagging shapes like this. And if you have practice with the pen tool, that's gonna come in handy. There we have a little bit of the ear showing here, so I'll leave that area white. This will meet the chin shadow here, so try to smoothly transition into that. So some of these like stray hairs, you could add those in later, just to do the main parts like this. This will connect. This black will continue down this shoulder strap, but I'll add that as a separate piece later, and then merge them. I think another one of the previous students maybe did Amy Winehouse. I remember someone doing Amy Winehouse. Try to find that example later. So this ribbon will make that white. Show some of those shadows in the ribbon. This part is a little bit confusing. What do we do here? Let's go like this and I guess shadow. I could either like uh, include this part as shadow or make that whole all white, this whole area, and just go to the hair. I don't know. So you could decide some of these areas you just have to experiment, try different versions, see which one looks better. You can see I'm just tracing the shadows, and you have to kind of determine like which shadows, the darkest dark parts or some of the grayer areas. That's the part where if you try to do this automatically with the computer, it's just gonna pick like the same value of dark, and that's why it doesn't look good. But you being able to select, pick and choose which areas, I think that helps it look nicer. Plus, having smooth curves makes it look good too. Okay. This part, I don't know. I'll just include this. I don't need to, but I will. So some of the parts that I'm skipping, like this hair, like all this, I'll add in as a separate shape. I don't want to like, I don't want to overlap the current line that I'm on. That's why I'll add that as a separate one. And this here, We'll just do solid black just so we could show like the border of her face here. Alright, so almost done with the hair, I think. Let's just include the eyebrow here, or I'll ignore the eyebrow, add it as a separate shape, just because I want to have like the hair as a separate object from the rest of the things. Uh, yeah, we'll go like that and connect it. Cool. So the overall shape of the hair is done. It'll look like that, and we'll add some detail over it to try to make it look more interesting. For now, I'll just leave it as an outline. Maybe raise this a little bit. Okay, let's do the face. I think this will work out good because of the makeup. Just try to get the overall shape of the eyebrows. And hopefully by like watching me use the pen tool, you kind of understand better how to use it, like the way I'm, the points that I'm picking and how far I'm dragging it when I create the curves. Okay, this part. I guess a separate shape, but I'll connect them later. So for the eye, let's do, I'll just draw a circle and a couple bright spots inside. Let's do the other eye before we preview it. Let me draw this shadow here. Actually, how should we do this? Let's go this way. Let's imagine this shadow continues this way. I'll just, these shapes that are overlapping, I'll just merge them later so it'll look better, but let's do this. Let's go here. So some parts I have to hold the Alt button, like whenever I come here, if I don't hold the Alt button, messes up that existing curve, so gotta hold the Alt button so it doesn't mess up this handle. Okay, and then we'll do a separate shape for this little bit. And just to make sure the eyes are the same size, I'll copy this one. And put a couple bright spots. Let's see, are these the same size? I'll make this one a little bit bigger. Let's see what it looks like so far before we continue. So just take the hair, flip that, the eyes, flip it, flip those. I think it's looking good so far. We can continue. Alright, so this shadow, I don't know if it's necessary. Might leave this completely out and just keep this part. Just as much as we need to show that there's a nose here. Thinking this might be too little, so I might have to extend some of this. I don't know if these two little specks are gonna be enough, so I might need to go a little bit longer, like include some more of this area, and let's see, you go further here. I'm gonna turn off the stroke for a minute just so I could see this a little bit better. And then for this one, I will go a little bit further up, like here. Even though there's not much shadow there, but I'll still include it. Right, it's a little bit more than before. And then like I said, I don't know if I need this part, but if I did, let's see, maybe have this continue down a little bit, but I think it should be fine leaving that out. There's a little bit of shadow here for the smile wrinkle, but again, might not need that. Let me do the lips first, and then we'll see if we need any other detail. So, when it comes to drawing a female, you could do the lips, but whenever you draw like the whole lips on a male, kind of looks weird. So like if it was a guy, I would probably just do like the crack in the lips and not include the whole lips. But for a girl, I would do the whole lip because it looks like lipstick. So let's get rid of that. right? And then also add some bright spots. So just some little white areas on the lips, just so it's not like solid black. So that will be the white. The rest will be black. I think that should look okay. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, yeah, I think the nose is fine. Nose was the part I was kind of worried about. Also the mouth. I think it's okay. Let's continue. What else do we need? Only little details like this mole. Uh, we could quickly throw in the shoulder straps. I think Amy Winehouse was a good choice because she does wear black, or yeah, she wears black a lot. So um, she used to, not no longer alive, so doesn't wear it anymore. But uh, black and white outfit, black polka dots. I think that'll be cool to do. Should we add the polka dots now or later? Just add them now. Let's see how we could quickly do the polka dots. Um, hmm. It is a pattern, so maybe we could use the pattern brush somehow. It's a pattern of white dots. Right, so how can we do this? Uh, if we repeated that, would that work? I think so. So maybe I could do this, but sideways. Or you could do them one by one if you want. I mean, it's not too many, but I mean, it's doable one by one. But let's see if we could take this, go to our brushes, drag this in there, make it a pattern brush. And see if we could apply this along this way. Yeah, I mean, it works, I guess. It's not gonna match exactly, but I think it's good. And down here, I think it gets a little bit messier, so maybe I'll bring it all the way. Let's see what that looks like if this is black. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's just do that for now. But if you want it to look a little better, I think probably better if you do it one by one. Why don't I just make this solid so I could see better? Oh, why is it doing that? Oh, really hard to see the anchor points. Cool, and then just add some more polka dots. That's fine. You could do the shadows too if you want. There's a little shadow. This is where drawing your name will come in handy. Practice with the pen tool. Go back there. Who's Blake? It's probably not going to look amazing whenever I switch the fill with the stroke, but I'll have a chance to adjust it. Use the shape builder to punch that hole. What else? There's another hole here that needs to be punched. And here. Yeah, like I said, we could adjust this after we flip it. Let's just lower the opacity a little and see what needs to be moved. I drew the entire letter instead of just the stroke, like a single stroke, like we did with the name assignment. So it's a little bit more rough looking. I think you could have done this with a single line and just applied a thick stroke to it. But whatever, I just drew the whole thing. Get rid of some points, that'll help, I think. Match the thickness here. I won't spend too much time on this. Just quickly gonna make it look a little bit better. Alright, that should be fine. And it's like a little pocket or something. I'll do that later or leave it out for now just so we get a chance to finish the whole thing. Alright, so let's do. I'll do a couple hearts just because I think that's probably necessary. Is like a recognizable tattoo on her, and it's not too hard to trace. Right, and then some shadows here. We'll have these connect to the hair, so go all the way through. Let's add in some of these stray hairs that I said I would add later. That's this one. This one looks kind of weird. Let's fix that. Let's finish the ribbon here. So let's do some of the black areas on there. Try to draw like um, the borders of the ribbon by kind of showing them this way. Actually, I went with white on this. Okay, so I guess I have to not draw that area since I decided that's gonna cut into the hair. So that means this is all gonna be white. So maybe I'll just add, um, what should we do? I'll just include this part here. And I guess this part. So that will be black. That will be black. Um, Maybe this part too. And maybe a little bit here. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's final touch. Let's do the bright spots in the hair. I think this part's kind of tough because it takes some creativity, but I think we could just do like a zigzag here. Right, so that's gonna be white. Um, Throw in something here. What should we do here? Let's just go like, no, hopefully this looks good. Here's some obvious ones. And some other things we could include here, like how about something like this, a little bit more here. Let's make all these white. The man who broke her heart, she wrote a song for him stronger than me. Oh, that's who Blake is, huh? Okay, so some more stuff here. Let's get rid of the fill so we could see what we're doing. And I think this will be the last detail in the hair I'll add. Okay, I think we're done. Let's see what it looks like if we switch all these. Um, did I forget anything? Oh, maybe some more the white spots here. Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about this area. Looks weird with no detail here when there's a bunch of detail up there. So let me add a few things here. Cool. Let's see what that looks like. Let me make another artboard. Alright, so flip that. Flip those. And that. Are we missing anything? What's this? Oh, nothing. I think we're done. It came out pretty good. Right. And I'll just make up some stuff here just so it's not so black here when everywhere else has all those little details. Just throw in something here and there. That's a little too much. To make that a little bit thinner. Right. Cool. Maybe throw that a little bit there. Okay. Also, I don't know what to do about. Well, this is cropped off, but we could definitely add some of this here. Right, that looks good. And that. Um, Maybe we could just imagine a shadow here. Show her arm if it was there. Maybe there's like a thin shadow just to define the edge of her arm or shoulder, I mean. Okay. Again, I don't like doing outlines. This is like the closest thing that's gonna be to an outline on this. But just because I want to show at least one side completely. Uh, Let me group that together real quick so I could overlap this and double click on it. We'll keep this here. We'll keep that. Everything else can go. Yeah, and then let's put it there. Cool. And then see if you could put that on a t-shirt or something on a website like Redbubble. Right. Alright, I didn't do the tiger that I thought I would do, but I was also checking if AI could do like a nice black and white tiger for me, but it was giving me these pencil drawings, even though I was saying, uh, what did I type in? Tiger in black and white drawn in Adobe Illustrator, but it gave me this. I did it earlier, and the best thing I got from it was this one. This one looks pretty cool. I think this would have been nice to trace as well. Maybe I'll do that later. Or use it as is. This came out pretty nice. Anyways, that's it. That's the final lecture for Adobe Illustrator. Let me assign your final projects, because I don't think I did. Does anyone have any questions? This Illustrator 1 project turned out kind of difficult. It's turning out more like this drawing that I did, the beach, more of an Illustrator 2 project. But again, try your best if you're an Illustrator 1. If it's too difficult, do something much more simple. Maybe with the with yeah, 2-point perspective. You could just draw like some building faces. Just draw it not in perspective first. Let's say we have a building that is this color. Right, and it's got some windows on it. Windows with a little bit of white down there. Anyway, something like that, and let's group it. Group that together, make 3 of them. Let's evenly distribute. Group that again. Select the building, click on it one more time, center that to the building, duplicate. I think this could come down a little. That will be one face of this building. Take that, click on, using the perspective selection tool, select one of the faces, and select the whole thing, move that into perspective. Alright, copy it, move the copy. While you're dragging the copy, press the number 2 or 3 actually to switch to the other perspective. Change that red color to something slightly darker. Control Shift I, and you can quickly draw some buildings in 3D. Let's bring that grid back. You can duplicate that, or actually this one, if you're gonna duplicate it, I think lay down maybe a road first. So let's draw a road in number 2 perspective. Make that gray, send it to the back. Let's bring it this way a little. Well, the road would not be going through the house, so let's move that this way. Oh, that looks strange. Okay, let me draw it one more time. Mess that road up. We want the road on the ground, but away from the building a little bit. And move that this way, scale it. Do another one for this other side. Scale that. Do a duplicate of this for the sidewalk. Duplicate this for the other side of the sidewalk. And that kind of shows us where the ground is. Then you can hide the perspective grid with Control Shift I, and then okay, this is a little bit too much here. Let me go back to the perspective grid real quick. Need to scale this way. There we go. Control Shift I. Alright, and then you can group the whole building. Control G. Send that to the back. Scale it down until it matches this line. Duplicate that to the other side. scale it down so it matches this line. You could draw a line here if you need like a reference. Draw a line right there. How do we scale this? Let's scale it. The scale tool maybe. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and just scale this until that matches that line. Same with the other side. And you could have some cool drawings like that. Anyways, it's another idea if you don't want to do a single perspective forest road, maybe some like city block or something. And for Illustrator 2, you could do a celebrity or an animal. I think I gave you, did I give you another assignment yesterday? I forgot already. Oh yeah, it was the, it was this. So, I'll give you guys an option since Illustrator 1 has 4 assignments so far. I want to give you guys equal number of assignments. So your final assignment for Illustrator 2, you can either do this isometric building drawing or the black and white portrait, or both if you want extra credit. So I'll make that an option. Choose one or the other. Let's see, for Illustrator 1, the last assignment was the mandala. So a new assignment for Illustrator 1 is assignment 5, perspective drawing. So this will be the final assignment. I'll count it as like a final exam. Unless you guys want to actually have a final exam where maybe I'll make you label the tools or something. But that just seems boring and not as fun. So this will just count as your final, meaning it'll be a bigger part of your grade than the previous assignments. So, um, so either with the perspective grid tool or a reference image, draw a scene with vanishing points showing 3D depth. Okay, you may choose single point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective. I will try to upload a sample once I'm done, but let's say the due date for this is official due date is Friday, but if you need more time, then try to take more time for that. But yeah, that's your last assignment. Rubric, I'll use my rubric from a previous project, which is you're going to be graded on time management, following directions, originality, creativity, and execution. Okay, assign that. For Illustrator 2, last assignment was also a mandala, but your assignment 5, again, final assignment. Either isometric drawing or black white portrait or animal. Okay, so I'll make sure to include the instructions on the isometric drawing, but create a 1000 by 1000 grid, rotate 45 degrees, scale vertically 57.7%, and use this grid as guide for asymmetric, not isometric, isometric building drawing, or create a black and white or two-tone. It doesn't have to be black and white, as long as it's two-tone. You could choose black and red if you want, or black and yellow, or whatever two tones. Drawing of a person or animal. Draw only the shadows and highlights. No no strokes. Okay, that's the only thing, no strokes. You can see there's no single stroke here. The only stroke is this pattern brush. Right. So that's what I mean. All shapes. Same due date. Next Friday. If you need more time, I'll accept it later, but you'll lose a few points. I'll also be grading based on this rubric, which is again based on time management, following directions, originality, creativity, and execution. Alright, that's the last lecture. Hope you enjoyed Illustrator this session. Let me give you the sign out and stop recording.